Go.
Hi, my name is Emilia, and I will introduce you to the French Farce. First of all, I will talk about the unfamiliar theatre tradition. Its origins is starting in France, first in the 13th century, but then it got more important on the 17th century. According to Britannica, the performers used to perform this type of tradition because they wanted to mock society and criticize the monarchy, in which they wanted to protest against King Louis XIV policies, which were mostly mercantilism, absolutism, and so on. The main themes they performed were about marriage, infidelity, and mostly clever servants against the authority. Also, there used to be mistaken identities, door slamming, physical comedy, and furniture tripping, and also like a chaotic pacing. They wanted to create entertainment and social commentary, and you couldn't improvise, and the physical humor, it was very, very important. The production elements and the performance space where they performed. There, it seems, the costumes, they were very exaggerated, and we need to know that the places where they performed were simple sets with practical props, scenes, also the lighting was natural, because lighting, it was only for rich people, and I believe that if they wanted to mock society, they couldn't perform a rich people in a serious way. They needed to mock them. The light sound effects were very important, since the audience played an important role on the performance. As I mentioned before, public outdoor spaces is where the places they used to perform, and they need to have a close proximity to the audience to create a strong interaction and a precise comedic timing. The performance convention I decided to explore is conveying emotion through the voice. I wanted to explore this because I wanted to understand the ability they had to express the characters' feelings and to improve my strong comedic timing. The most typical emotions they used to portray were anger, nervousness, and surprise or irony. They needed to have a fast-paced and chaotic voice, since they need to have a clear vocal delivery so the audience could understand what was going on. Also, as I mentioned before, the physical actions were limited because the space where they used to perform, it was very tiny. They needed to have a stage presence and a comic rhythm, and also have an exaggerated shift in volume and tone, so they could keep the rhythm fast and vary from speaking in a low whisper to a high-pitched tone. Why I decided to choose this convention? I wanted to improve my acting and to be a better performance, and to understand why voice is just as important as my movement, so I could deliver lines with different emotions. I also learned that it's not just about being louder or funnier, since there needs to be a meaning and a rhythm, so, as I mentioned before, the audience can understand what is going on. The voice, it was their primary performance tool, and they need to have an exaggerated vocal delivery to make emphasis. My practical exploration of the performance task. I explored the exaggerated 17th century French farce, and I decided to know how the voice guided the physicality. In order to improve, I practiced an emotional mirror, by which I stand in front of a mirror and I read lines from the play Tartuffe by Molière, in which I reacted to imaginary stimuli, and I varied my tone, my pitch tone, by imagining that something was happening and the several ways in which it could like block my way of speaking. As there you can see, I recreated a desperate searching scene, and I decided to add platforms in order to improve my body control and my timing. In order to my application to the traditional material, I decided to grab a line from Tattoo, in which Orgon and Doreen are kind of arguing, since Orgon doesn't care about his wife's health because he's only worrying about Tattoo. Doreen in this line she's being sarcastic because Orgon is not worried at all. See, she makes fun of him by pretending admiration, but the audience knows that she's mocking him. As the line says, both of them are now quite fine. I'll now be going out to tell your wife of your deep concern and this threat to her life. I also decided to add different, my entrance and an exit in order to practice it. My reflection on learning. My practical exploration and development of a performance, I learned that voice is a very important tool in order to express my emotions, and there were several challenges I faced. First of all, I faced that coordinating vocal shifts with exaggerated movements, physical movements. It was very hard for me because first of all I couldn't understand how I could coordinate, but with practice I finally got better into it, but I'm not that good. And I also understood how the way lines are delivered changes the audience understanding. And of course that voice is as powerful as the way it moves. I also decided to practice on pratfalls and my exaggerated gestures and my solemn poses. I wanted to recreate the absurdity that performers used to create by using vocal tension and release, essentially like varying from a high-pitched tone to a low whisper. How I understood the theater of the word. I developed confidence in the way I combined voice, body, and rhythm in the performance, and there were clear cues from my voice and body for the audience to understand. I knew that comedy has a purpose all around the world. In order to, most of it, critique society, hypocrisy, and the authority. The exaggerated expressions on the rhythm are a universal tool in comedy, and the theater can adapt globally while maintaining similar purposes, which are entertain, critique, and reflect society. I decided to compare it with other two traditions, which are Commedia dell'arte and Kyogen. Commedia dell'arte is well known by their stock characters, by their use of masks, and their exaggerated behaviors. And of course, the outcome is in order to be funny and to create like a kind of social critique. Kyogen is known for their stylized movements, its comedic timing to reflect social norms, such as French Farce. And also, their outcome is being funny, but also it teaches a lesson. And both of them have exaggerated traits in order to create humor in which they reflect the society, and comedy can be understood across cultures. And this, to end, those are the references I used.